Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Schenectady. I'm the Reverend Lynn Gardner. She and they are the pronouns that fit for me. And along with the Reverend Wendy Bartel, please use Wendy's name rather than pronouns. We are the co-ministers of this congregation.
And now, let us just receive the gift of our next breath and settle more fully into our seats for our worship service, celebrating our coming together, celebrating water, celebrating faithful community.
If anyone would like to hear a story from a little bit closer, I invite you to come on down to the center of our circle. It is so lovely to see all of you today, all of you. When I was 10 years old, my parents decided to try out a family camp for our summer vacation. We had a great time at camp, and so did our family friends who came too. And after that first year, we looked forward to our week in July at Camp Tuolumne for years and years. Camp Tuolumne is in the Sierras in California. So imagine this with me. You are 12 years old. You've gotten up early and you've helped pack the car. The grown-ups have driven about 4 hours into the mountains. And when the car turns onto the road that will lead to camp, everyone is sure to roll down their windows. Back in the day, this is how you rolled down a window, okay? Just so you know. Now we do this. Okay. Roll down the windows to enjoy that familiar and fresh smell of everything growing in those pine forests. And then, after helping set up your family's wooden frame cabin that has a canvas roof and simple cots, you pull on a bathing suit, make sure you have on sunscreen, and you ask if you can head to the swimming hole. The swimming hole is at the heart of camp. And it is where the cold and clear Tuolumne River widens and deepens thanks to a small dam that is rebuilt each spring after the Sierra snows have melted. The dam also allows water and fish to continue on downstream because, after all, everything is interconnected. There's a bridge that crosses the river just below the swimming hole. And as you head that way, you pause for just a minute to see all that is going on. Kids and adults on floaties chat with one another or just enjoy the warm sun and the cool water. There are extra floaties too for anyone to use. 2 of the camp staff are giving a swimming lesson to a group of kids in a shallow section, and their parents or grandparents are nearby with towels and water and snacks for after class. There is a huge granite boulder at the far end of the swimming hole. It's called Beaverhead Rock because if you look at it from the right angle and you squint, it kind of almost looks like a giant beaver head coming out of the water. And if you know how to swim and you can climb up on it, you can jump off of Beaverhead, either at a lower spot or all the way at the top, which is about 10 feet from the water. Climbing up a granite rock when you are wet and slippery can be a bit tricky. It helps to know the safest route and where there is enough texture on the rock so that you can grab on. There are often kids and adults at the top who are offering an invitation and encouragement. Here, grab my leg. You can do it. And when anyone jumps or dives, there's lots of cheers from all around to celebrate with you. As you look around the swimming hole, you hear someone call your name. And there's a friend that you met last year waving to you. Hey, come in. The water's great. My dad used to take the temperature of the water every morning and evening. He was an engineer, so he liked to track things. Because some years we would say, you know, the water's warmer this year. It never was. Like very little variation. It's Sierras. The water's cold, let's just say. Yeah. There are lots of different ways to get into the water. Some folks wade in slowly, while others jump in from a rocky outcropping where it's really deep. Today, you see a woman who uses a wheelchair, and her husband has rolled her chair to where the bottom is sloping gently. He lifts her into the water, and they swim slow and steady laps across the pool together. Some people prefer to get in only up to their knees. Some jump right in. Others choose to stay on dry land, making use of the Adirondack chairs that are circled around in the shade. My mom was brilliant at being able to swim and never get her hair wet. I tended to jump all the way in. How would you want to get into the water? Jump, jump, jump. Not get in. We have not get in. Jump, jump, jump. You want to get in? Yeah. Would you want to walk in or would you want to jump in? Walk. Okay. Ease in. So many different ways to get in. Here at UUSS, there are lots of ways to participate too, to find your space as we care for the whole. Some folks stay near the edges or dip their toes in. Others wade in slowly, and some of you have jumped in with a splash. No matter what, you aren't here alone. And if you risk wading in a little bit deeper, there are folks to help or offer encouragement when anything in your life feels scary or slippery. And we're here to cheer you on and celebrate with you too. As we begin a new year at UUSS, this is an invitation to come on in. The water's great. Wade in slowly by attending a choir rehearsal. Make a splash by participating in UU the Vote. Jump right in by volunteering on Sunday mornings. Bring a friend and dip your toes into any of the programs or groups that meet throughout the month. And to our amazing kids, we'd love to have you participate in worship. You can light the chalice or lead the bond of union or help share a story and more. When you show up and participate, when you live your UU values in the world, you make a difference. So come on in. And now I invite you to choose how you want to move back to your seats. You can walk or skip or hop or dance or swim.
Let us take some time now to sit in the quiet, even as the sounds of life may go on in and around us. Putting our bodies into a position of stillness gives it a chance to just rest a little bit. There'll be other times to move around. There'll be other times to make sounds, but right now, we just sit as still as we can with our feet on or towards the floor. Our hands resting in our lap, or holding a little one, or snuggling in a parent's lap, or holding someone else's hand with their consent. You might close your eyes or Soften your gaze, which means maybe just kind of looking downwards, maybe upwards here towards the chalice, maybe just down towards the floor. As we gather in our Zoom sanctuary and in this humble hall, we acknowledge that there are places in the world where there is simply too much water, and other places where there is not nearly enough. And in that complexity, we gather along with other UU congregations across the continent to celebrate the way water can bring us together. The amount of water that is just right. In our meditation this morning, I invite you to picture in your mind, in your imagination, a favorite body of water. Maybe it's the ice in a tall glass of water. Maybe it's a pond in your neighborhood, or the Mohawk River, or the Hudson. Maybe it's the new Schenectady Central Park pool, or a lake in the Adirondacks. Maybe it's the fountains out front, or the Atlantic Ocean at the Jersey Shore, or Martha's Vineyard, or Provincetown, or off the coast of Maine. Maybe it's the San Francisco Bay, the Gulf of Mexico, the Cook Inlet in Alaska. Picture it and see as many details as you can in your mind. Just a favorite. It doesn't have to be the favorite. Just one you really enjoy. What is the quality of the water? Is it clear? Is it a bit murky? Is it calm, or are there ripples or waves? Are there rocks or lily pads, ducks, herons, loons, Canada geese, water skimmers? What is the temperature of the water? Of the air? Imagine as many details as you can. And in this one of your favorite places, favorite bodies of water, how do you feel near this body of water? Calm? Relaxed? Joyful? Adventurous? Playful? And as you continue to think about this favorite body of water and what it feels like and looks like and what's nearby and how you feel near it, in it, on it, with it, we're going to have some quiet time for our own internal imaginings or offering prayers or meditations of gratitude for the many places on this earth that are so beautiful and sustaining, acknowledging that water is indeed life.
If water could talk, what might it say? Rose Sanders is credited with writing "There's a River Flowin' in My Soul," but she has since reclaimed a new name, Faya Rose Touré, which she chose back in 2003. She was the first female African American judge in Alabama. There were plenty of people telling her that she was nobody. So this song carries such profound meaning. There's a river in my soul, in my heart, in my mind, and it's telling me, maybe telling you, that you are somebody. This song aligns so beautifully with our first principle, the principle that Unitarian Universalists affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It also aligns with the language in our UUA bylaws that were updated this past June at our General Assembly that now describes UU values rather than principles and the covenant that those values invite us to live into. For our UU value of equity, it says, we declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. And it's telling me that I'm somebody.
One of the books I read this summer on study leave was from our own UUA publisher, Skinner House. It's called Justice on Earth: People of Faith Working at the Intersections of Race, Class, and the Environment. In it are a series of essays by folks of a variety of identities, some clergy, some lay folks, a variety of theologies and perspectives, all of them Unitarian Universalist, different and alike. One of the most moving to me was from the Reverend Kathleen McTeague, who is the former director of the UU College of Social Justice, and she was a parish minister for 25 years before that. Many of us in this circle and many Unitarian Universalists are drawn to this faith because we want to make the world a better place. We witness or experience racism and classism. We experience or see economic disparity. We witness or experience the systematic assault on reproductive rights. We can feel the ravages of corporate greed. We know that folks who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, and or transgender are regularly the targets of fearful legislatures and right-wing groups. And while this is all deeply true, it is also true that we UUs want to do something about those terrible things in the world. And sometimes, maybe often, we focus our efforts somewhere, over there, in another state or country, to help those people, which is important. And it's harder in many ways to sustain a local effort, to participate locally. Those other efforts, very important. There's no dissing of those efforts whatsoever. And we acknowledge that it is a little bit trickier sometimes to actually do local sustained effort, because it might mean we bump into people that we are in conflict with in the grocery store, the gas station, or the electric plug-in for more and more folks, or the city council meeting. And yet that is most often where change happens, especially when we build relationships and people begin to see the world in a different way, in ways that you can help them see, the ways that you living in your Unitarian Universalist values can do and help, and be willing to be changed by that help, by following the leadership of those most impacted, by offering leadership when there isn't leadership, where there needs to be. But more and more, to follow the leaders of those most impacted. Our first water communion and picnic with you back in 2017 had kids playing in the stream that flows next to our church property. But now it is unsafe to do so. This is why the Hansgrohe kill is such a good focus for UUSS. It's literally in our own backyard. And not just ours. It has impact up in the Realty plot and further and downstream to the Mohawk River. UUSS hosted a powerful and deeply meaningful presentation by Dr. John Garver from Union College this past spring. Over 50 people, several connected with the city and also local environmental groups, were here, moved by what they heard, and are starting to share the information more widely. We hope that many of you will join with the Social Justice Action Team to strategize next actions to take in the struggle to discover the sources of the pollution and to make sure the city takes action to mitigate it. It takes time to plan, so working on the plan now to do whatever's going to come next is important because we need to partner with the city. Maybe nudge the city to make sure that this stream gets cleaned. Because we are part of an interdependent web, right? We are connected with those who are downstream. We are connected with where the Mohawk flows. And we are pulled in so many directions right now because there is so much chaos and destruction happening everywhere around us, right? Yes? Maybe? Yes. We have deep concerns about our democracy, our nation, diplomacy, environmental protections, reproductive freedom. White Christian nationalists and their Project 2025 agenda are woefully misguided. And they are completely motivated to do harm, to send us backwards in time, to hurt and limit the rights of people of color, to degrade women to second-class citizens to stay at home, to eliminate immigrants but denigrate them in the process, to weaken public education, to destroy fair elections, and so much more. And they are using some very effective tactics on people who are already feeling marginalized for whatever reason in their lives, whether or not they actually are marginalized. And those who are afraid of all the changes towards equity and justice that have happened in such a short time. Fear is a powerful motivator. And fear has its limits. Remember at the beginning of this summer, and many of us maybe were feeling a little bit of fear about the presidential election? Beginning of the summer. And maybe after the various party conventions and the debate earlier this week, we might be feeling a bit more hopeful in some ways. And while I don't want to think about this, I humbly offer a reminder of how many of us felt in early 2016. There's no way he can win. Now, we can't technically discuss candidates because of our 501c3 institution status. Literally, the IRS has rules and regulations. We cannot discuss candidates. We cannot be involved in campaigning for partisanship here on campus, not in a local election, not a national one. You can't, we can't. Our status would be in danger, and none of us want to have that happen. However, we can educate about the importance of getting out the vote, how to get elected, how to participate, how to be a poll watcher. All of these things are very important. Here and going other places, several awesome humans in this room went to Pennsylvania to knock on doors and get people out and get to vote. Hooray, awesome sauce, keep doing stuff. And our local UU, the group, is doing amazing things, inviting each of us and all of us to be involved. Not just inviting us, but we actually need to be involved, to do something, whether or not it makes us feel comfortable. Maybe calling people to say, hey, I hope you're going to vote sounds terrifying. I'm an introvert, I agree. But it is one of the most effective ways to get people to the polls. Postcards, letter writing, creating strategies to help people actually get to either an early election in the places where that's available or get on election day to where they need to cast their vote. Every one of us, no matter how old or young we are, can do something, no matter how small, to help make sure that this election happens, to make sure that the votes get counted and certified, and that the Electoral College does the right thing. Now, while we can't talk about candidates, we can implore everyone who is eligible to vote, and to vote your conscience, to vote for candidates who lift up similar values that we hold as Unitarian Universalists, things that are most in alignment with our values, our principles, our aspirations. Who here already has a plan to vote? If you need help, a ride to the polls, anything, talk to the UU The Vote people. We are committed to getting everybody available to vote as easily and efficiently and compassionately as possible. Because we Unitarian Universalists cherish honesty and integrity. We value pluralism, that is, celebrating differences and our similarities. We value generosity, not just with our money, but with one another, a generosity of kindness, of neighborliness. And we are striving to put love at the center of everything we do. Everything we do. Rather than fomenting fears about other people. So we don't actually have to even talk about specific campaigns or candidates. We just have to thoughtfully consider our values and vote accordingly. Together, we can create a new way forward towards more compassion, justice, and joy as our UUSS mission guides us to do. That's it. And that's just not it. There is so much more nationwide we are going to have to stay vigilant about. That said, the next 51 days are going to be a wild ride. Yeah. And that is why McTeague's essay was so powerful to me this summer. She writes, social change is long, hard work, and it often seems to be punctuated by setbacks and defeats more often than by victories. When we set out to put the small influence of our lives into the struggle for justice, we cannot expect that the vision we hold for a better world will be realized soon, or easily, or even in the course of our lifetimes. This is even more true as we engage the many intersecting issues of climate change. We will face challenges that are unpredictable, multifaceted, and enormous. She continues, in the face of these challenges, it is essential that we draw on the deep waters of spiritual practices that renew and sustain our spirits. These practices do not resolve the problems we face, nor do they magically take away the feelings that arise when we see the true dimensions of these problems: despair, discouragement, helplessness, confusion. They all may still go parading through our hearts. But spiritual practices help us hold them within a larger context.
We need spiritual practices to support our hearts and our minds. Spiritual practices that help sustain us when times are hard and buoy us when things are good. Last week, Reverend Wendy shared Thich Nhat Hanh's practice of breathing in. I know that I am breathing out in. Breathing out. I know I am breathing out. It can be important to know who we are, what we need, why we do what we do, and to recognize that we have both the penchant for good and for evil within us. As we deepen our own self-awareness, we can grow our awareness of other people's needs. We can notice and attend to other people's desires and behaviors. We can grow in our awareness of when to set boundaries, when to build more connection. Because Unitarian Universalists don't have a unified belief system, but rather invite one another into doing the personal and spiritual work of figuring out what you believe, spiritual practices too are varied. For some, even some who don't believe in an entity that some call God, prayer can be a spiritual practice. For some of us, even some who believe in something more that we may call God, meditation can be a spiritual practice. Maybe some of you are coloring right now, and that's your spiritual practice. A spiritual practice is something one does with intention, attention, and repetition. McTeague describes it this way. Intention is the deliberate engagement of our will in a practice that nurtures a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves. Attention means we exist only in the present moment. We practice quieting the incessant chatter of our minds in order to receive one moment at a time with openness, curiosity, and a willingness to be with what is. Repetition allows our centering activity to form part of a rhythm of our day. And in the same way, that constant practice allows us to become a musician or learn a new language. Repetition of a spiritual practice helps us to hone qualities like awareness, patience, and compassion. So, if once a day or once an hour, we paused, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in, I am calm. Breathing out, I smile. With intention, attention, and repetition, this could be a sustaining spiritual practice. You might choose a different one, but we invite you to choose one. When the storms of daily life overwhelm us, it can be a metaphorical umbrella, a powerful tool to ease our suffering. Walking together after dinner and checking in with one another as a family can be a spiritual practice. Listening to music that gives us hope can be a spiritual practice. Building cool Lego structures can be a spiritual practice. That umbrella can repel the negative forces that seek to disturb our lives or at least give us something to help us weather the event. Spiritual practices can also be like a reflecting pool, the streams of our lives coming together, and we sit quietly and ponder, what is working in my life? What needs adjusting? What might I need to let go of? We can notice what the reflecting reveals. Spiritual practices can also be like the ocean or a deep well, something that you return to again and again that brings comfort or quenching a thirst. We read or hear some new dastardly thing that someone has done, and our blood pressure can start to rise. We need to do something. This is wrong. I must stop it. But instead of crashing headlong into the typhoon of media, law, politics, social commentary, we can pause, recognizing that when we are in that state of hyper individualism or desperation, it rarely serves anyone. We can grow in awareness of what's happening in our bodies. We can name 5 things that we see, 4 things we hear, 3 things we can touch, 2 things we can smell, 1 thing we can taste. We can become more present and feel more grounded and centered. We might think of a place where we feel that way. Maybe that's here in this circle. Maybe that's at a spot that you have at home. Perhaps it's near the ocean, breathing in the salt air. And from that place, we can move in a direction with others who also care about what is happening. We can be strategic and collaborative and cooperative. We do this because we recognize that our actions have an impact.
And we want to be mindful about what that impact is. And so we practice mindfulness. We practice heartfulness. We imagine a body of water that gives us comfort. McTeague names, we are part of an immense living reality, and the choices we make have an impact on that reality far beyond our small field of awareness. Understanding that truth on a spiritual level allows us to make choices in our daily lives and our justice work that align our individual actions with the well-being of the whole. She says we do not have all the answers, and when we approach our justice work, all of our work, with this kind of humility, we become more open to the ideas of others, more capable of being flexible and adaptive and less egocentric. And for those of us who don't particularly feel called to the work of justice, spiritual practices still matter. When we struggle at work or with a family member or a neighbor or ourselves, it doesn't have to be the call of justice. There are lots of ways to make the world a better place, particularly our small corner of it, in the relationships that we have, the interactions. Whether you are an elder or a little person or somewhere in between, you have the power to make a difference by being kind and inviting others to stop being mean, by cooperating with others instead of trying to do everything yourself in your own way, by inviting other people into your circle to play a game or to come over for dinner or to make art or music together or to enjoy listening to it. Or as we saw many of you this summer go to a concert. And live music is all over the place in the summer. Today, on this Ingathering Sunday, in the season of one of the most consequential presidential elections and the local elections in our lifetimes, we engage the ritual of gathering of waters. Gather them together as a symbol, the physical manifestation of joining our hearts, minds, souls, votes, and efforts together with our spiritual practices, that we may stay grounded in our covenants of right relations and UU values. May they help us reach the sustaining waters of justice, equity, compassion, hope, and joy. Amen. And blessed be.
Today, we celebrate and honor the gifts of water and community. For many years, this congregation has held a gathering of waters service in September, bringing the quiet songs of creeks, ponds, rivers, lakes, oceans, swimming pools, fountains, and faucets to be poured together, a ritual of return and renewal that is a tradition among many Unitarian Universalist congregations across the continent. You may have brought water with you today. Water collected from an adventure near or far, or quiet time spent at home, or puddles in the park, or from one of the few summer storms. It may be water from a hospital or office or a garden hose. You may be planning on using water from the pitchers available, And for those online, we know some of you have sent water earlier this week. Also, there will be water poured on your behalf. Whatever the source of water, it can represent many things. It may be our connection to a particular place, a special time, people we love. It may represent a feeling, a sense of peace or hope or sadness. Maybe the water represents many tears shed for so many losses. Maybe for you, the water represents love, a love that holds us afloat even in the hardest of times. Whatever the water is for you, it is welcome here just as you are. When it's time to pour, please share just a bit, as there's certainly such a thing as too much water, such as the current flooding in Louisiana and Alabama from a tropical storm. There is also, of course, tragically, such a thing as not enough water. And we're particularly aware of millions of people in Sudan and Gaza and elsewhere who do not have access to clean water. So we don't pour it lightly. The water we pour is life-sustaining. If you're wishing you had brought water today or weren't sure that you needed to bring it, don't worry. We have carafes with enough water, and each of those have the power to symbolize whatever you want that water to be. In a few moments, we'll invite those in the church building to make your way up to one of the 4 vessels available at the top of the circle. Thank you to LB Hanna's, Robin Salvin, Dan Leonard, and Emily Shop for being present at the tables for this ritual.
And we will do this ritual as Maria plays a beautiful piece by Alexis French called Rivers. And as you pour, think about what the water represents in this moment for you. We'll co-mingle all of that in this sacred ritual, this meaningful dance of water, joining water, an invitation to join our individual drops to flow together. Let us begin. We pour in water on behalf of those here online and those who couldn't make it to service at all today. We had water sent by those across country to be gathered in these waters today, sent through family. We pour water that was saved from last year's service, which also has water in it from years before, water that has come from oceans and rivers, including from our partner church in Marș-Vârșehe, Romania. And to all that, we add today's water to blend together. Thank you. After this water is boiled and in other ways purified, it will be used throughout the year for other rituals like teacher blessings, child dedications, and house blessings. We will also give some to the memorial gardens in the back, with thanks to this congregation's ancestors, as well as to the Kanyan Kehaka people of the Haudenosaunee, and with gratitude to this precious earth.
We bless this water and its capacity to nourish, to sustain life, to reflect beauty. And we honor the nourishing and life-giving waters of this beautiful planet that we share and bow with gratitude for those who nourish and sustain this community with your presence.
May we be blessed and may we be a blessing. Beloveds on Zoom and beloveds in this room, as life continues to unfold, let us find ways to consider not just our own perspectives, but those of others, to take a breath when it gets difficult, to offer kindness and compassion to others and to ourselves, to talk with one another even if it is hard, and when things feel a little stuck, to invite ourselves and one another to consider the healing river of community, ever changing, ever flowing, never the same twice, yet still very present. May it be so. We are blessed by the gift of water, flowing like emotions, nourishing our bodies, whether floating or swimming, polar bear plunging, or jumping off Beaver Head Rock. The individual streams of our lives become a mighty river when we gather together, our journey and adventure as we learn to row in the same direction, becoming more effective when we join together as one. As the river flows in and between our souls, we make a bigger splash, a greater difference. So let us draw from the deep waters of spiritual practice, intention, attention, and repetition, as we are invited into the deep work of self-awareness and full presence with others in the flow of life. Water, heal our body. Water, heal our souls. And when we go down to the water, may we all feel more whole.